Hey, everybody. Welcome to Winsight Live. Before I kick it over to Phil Lempert, a couple of stories this morning on Winsight Grocery Business. Kroger, which reports its second quarter earnings tomorrow, has a unique partnership with a company called Dinner Daily, which is kind of a clever menu building system for consumers, a subscription-based thing that will allow them to get menu ideas for dinner and click over to Kroger for delivery or pickup in one click. Behind the scenes, Dinner Daily is scraping the sales flyers to kind of build their recipes around items that are on sale, and for Kroger, an opportunity to promote their private brands. Kind of a win-win-win all around for them. You might look in the skies in Fayetteville, North Carolina soon. A Walmart delivery may be headed your way. They've announced a partnership with the Israel-based drone company Flytrex to test autonomous drone delivery. These drones lower the packages to consumers via rope. It's going to be something to see. A long time before that becomes a big thing in retail, I think, but interesting to see that companies are still testing all kinds of autonomy in retail. Now over to you, Phil.
So, John, those two companies, Kroger and Walmart, I really think have advanced so much in the past couple years, not even couple years, in the past year and so on. If you look at the apps that they're doing, if you look at everything, I really think that the supermarket war is going to be between Kroger and Walmart. They're both doing some unbelievable things, which I think is just fabulous. So that's the good news. Here's some bad news. I don't get this, and maybe you guys can help me figure this out. As of yesterday, immediately, our administration has stopped requiring U.S. plants that produce egg products to have full-time government inspectors. Okay, so right now, and I remember as a kid, not as a kid, but working for my dad, going into the meat facilities in the Bronx Terminal Market, in Newark Terminal Market, and so on, with all the butchers, with all the blood all over them, and there'd be an inspector sitting there in these little places full time. They got rid of those. We started to have more problems when it came to meat food safety issues. And this rule affects 83 plants. And now what they're saying is the inspectors are going to be like on patrol. They'll visit plants once per shift instead of being there whenever egg products are being processed. This is going to be more efficient for them because they can get in their car, they can, drive from plant to plant to plant. I don't understand it. We just went through this huge recall of hard-boiled eggs, cooked eggs, that affected 5 states, that sickened 8 people with listeria. One person actually died from it. I don't understand how we can just reduce food inspections, especially in this era. I think we talked a couple weeks ago that in China, they're inspecting every package that's imported when it comes to food. And they found COVID-19 on chicken wings from Brazil. They found COVID-19 on something else that came from, I don't know, two other countries and so on. We should be ramping up inspections, not reducing them. Also, San Diego University has a new survey that came out, and Jen, with everything that you do with UFCW, you're going to love this one. That they actually looked at 2,800 hourly workers in San Diego County and found that 95% of food service, grocery, and retail industry participants face negative consequences due to unpredictable work scheduling process. That they're working from shift to shift. They don't find out what shift they're on, for a couple hours. They're working for 10 hours. They get to go home for 4 hours. Then they have to go back. I mean, UFCW really is doing a great job to try to protect our workers because of studies like this, which I don't get. 2 more quick things. Stop and Shop has launched a back to school snack program as of yesterday. So every week in starting yesterday through early October. It's called the Stop and Shop Back to School Snack Program, a free bag of better for you snacks, as well as hand sanitizer to students who visit one of the supermarket's 52 stores that are hosting the program. They can go once a week to get the snack pack, which I think is really cool. And in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, we're starting to see, the food trends come out. So the 10 food trends for the next decade. The first food trend, I would probably disagree with it, is that booze will lose traction. That they're saying that even in spite of the pandemic, people are drinking less. Everybody that I know is drinking more. So with that, what do you guys think? You think booze is out?
Well, I witnessed stories over the summer. I think it started covered like March, April, June. And it kind of tracks with what your study said, that booze sales are down, even though, bars and restaurants obviously aren't selling as much as they used to, where people usually went, but weren't necessarily making that up in the grocery store or liquor stores where people could still buy it. So I think anecdotally, we all feel like we're maybe drinking more than we had in the past, but the sales figures just aren't holding that out.
And most of that because of food service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Jen, why don't you talk to us a little bit about hazard pay and what UFCW is doing, and how surveys like this are really going to affect people wanting to work in restaurants or in supermarkets?
Yeah, so the UFCW is continuing its pledge to grocery workers and food service workers that it wants to get the hazard pay reinstated. The coronavirus hasn't gone anywhere, but the pay bump have all gone away. So last week, leading up to Labor Day, they launched this national campaign in different cities around the country that they said was going to involve actions, quote unquote actions, which is really like protests.
Yeah.
But I guess that's maybe a word that organizations are reticent to use right now, given the current climate. But they were protests in different cities in California, Virginia, Texas, Georgia, Maryland, DC, in front of major grocery chains, US Senate offices and pharmacies, urging the major grocery chains to reinstate hazard pay. And some of the local news media outlets picked up on it, like outside of a Houston Kroger store, and the employees were wearing T-shirts and holding signs that said, honk for hazard pay, and were encouraging shoppers to sign a petition to reinstate that pay raise that was given at the beginning of the pandemic. And Kroger's issued a response to that and said, well, we've invested over $830 million in our employees since March. So I guess the question is, should that continue, or do they feel like that's enough? Does it end there?
Well, John, you're looking at their earnings all the time. Can they afford, to continue doing hazard pay?
Well, I think at a certain degree, UFCW is playing the long game here, and they've got agreed to contracts with these retailers for periods of 3 or 4 years at a time. And I think, anything they can do to sort of, this coronavirus is obviously a dangerous thing, but also an opportunity for them to kind of raise the profile of the issues that they've been raising for a long time about, better class of pay for retail workers in all trades. So, can the companies afford to do it? I mean, right now they're making a lot of money, so you could probably argue they could. I think the companies might tell you, we've got a lot of other priorities that require our investment as well, including our employees. That would be investments in technology, making sure that Amazon and Walmart don't destroy us. Conveniences for customers, new stores, cleaner stores, better stores. It's all part of the mix, and with collectively bargained agreements of union chains, that there's a certain amount of cost certainty that kind of comes with that, and I think the companies are happy to rely on that. And I know those things are all hard to bargain for.
So, John, you have a new piece about Walmart. What's going on there?
Yeah, just, it's the week after Labor Day. There's always a lot of these investor conferences. And so they're going around. A lot of the public companies are presenting. Walmart's CFO, Brett Biggs, had some interesting comments. They kind of got back to some of the stuff we talked about with their second quarter earnings, which is, the question of, is Walmart gaining share or losing share in grocery? Because, their grocery comps in the second quarter about 9 to 10%. Their competitors in the supermarket industry approaching 20% and sometimes higher. So that would be an indication they're losing share. Two caveats to that. One, Walmart's prices are lower. Their volumes are, ridiculous. 9% comps are good no matter what. You got to keep that in mind. And, the other thing, though, that he did mention was, kind of the operational compromises they made because of COVID, which is, closing their stores a couple hours earlier every day. And reducing the capacity in the stores. And, if you're a shopper and you want to go to Walmart in the evening and you're like, well, they're closing at 8:30, maybe you don't go there, maybe you go someplace more convenient. I think that's happening on a large scale all around, and that's contributing into it a little bit as well.
And what about a report from Albertsons? What did their CEO say?
Their CEO kind of reviewed a lot of the reasons why they are one of those 20% companies, doing a tremendous amount of business and really kind of has that business kind of cracking in a lot of ways. Vivek Shankaran is his name. And he, goes back to a couple of points, which I think are really well taken. One, the closure of workplaces means more dinners, breakfasts and lunches at home. Those things always went to the office. And two, he kind of shared a personal story of him wanting to get some Indian food near Boise, which I imagine is difficult in any circumstance. Right. But went through 3 different restaurants and found a couple of them were closed, and the one he had to settle for, the quality wasn't great. So, I think the point he raised is that the supply of restaurants is kind of going down even as the business comes back, and that interested me in Pat's take on that.
Well, I think a lot of independent restaurants are obviously closing. They just can't stay in business when they're only filled 25 to 50% capacity. And they're doing outdoor dining now, but that's not making up the difference, nor is takeout and delivery. So, there's some estimates that, maybe 35% of restaurants will close by the end of the year. Some say it could be as high as 70%.
Wow.
Really pretty grim.
Well, and I just saw, I don't know if it takes effect already or takes effect October 1st, but in New York City, they're now allowing dining with 25% capacity.
Right.
How can a restaurant make it on running 25% capacity?
Well, they can't is the problem, but it's better than nothing. At first, New York City was going to have no indoor dining at all, and with the weather getting colder, as we go into fall and winter, they're not going to be able to sit people outside. So I guess it's better than nothing.
Well, but also for the employees, I wonder, because I look, here in Santa Monica, there is outdoor dining, there is no indoor dining. And, they've closed off part of the street. So in some cases, they've got as many tables outside that they would have had inside. So that's the good news. The bad news is what I've known and I've noticed is a lot of the regular wait staff have not come back. And in talking to some of them, what they've said is basically, we don't have the volume. Yeah, we have the tables. We don't have the volume. We don't have people buying as expensive things as they used to. They're making less in tips, and they're saying basically, and this is a horrible thing to have to say, I'm making more on unemployment than going back to work.
Right. Yeah, it's a big problem. And, I live in Chicago, and there's a lot of outdoor dining going on now, but that can't last into November, December.
So Pat, what's the hot new food trend in those restaurants that are open?
Well, right now, with football season kicking off tonight, like we were talking about earlier, chicken wings are the item of the moment. They're very delivery friendly. They're good value, and everyone is trying to get into the chicken wing game. Chili's and Applebee's actually started virtual chicken wing concepts. Domino's revamped their chicken wings so that they're much tastier now and much more on trend. But Buffalo Wild Wings, which was one of the pioneers in chicken wings, really wants to own the category. So they've been doing a lot of R&D during the pandemic. They just launched 4 new sauces for their wings. Plus, they have about 50 in the pipeline. So expect to see a lot of new flavors coming out of Buffalo Wild Wings. They're also trying to welcome diners inside as well as doing delivery. So they have special football packages that they're offering for the fall. Starting tonight, I think you could buy like season tickets and come every week and sit in their restaurants in specially designated areas. So wings and football go together.
So when we look at wings, all the innovation has really been about the sauce. Are you hearing or seeing any innovation as it relates to the wings themselves? I mean, yeah, it's chicken. Yeah, it's a chicken wing, but it could be different sizes. It could be organic. I don't even know if there's an organic chicken wing that's out there. What about the chicken itself? Are we seeing any innovation coming there?
Well, not too much in the wing, but Buffalo Wild Wings just introduced cauliflower wings for vegetarians. So those are a new item. I think a number of other concepts have tried this, and they have the same kind of crunch. You can use the same kind of sauces, and they got really high marks with consumers when they tested them out in the restaurants.
So, Brett, anything new and exciting going on in the C-store business?
Something fun coming out of Iowa. Casey's General Stores recently debuted curbside pickup operations, and I've spoken so many times on this feed about how it's essential that convenience store chains start diving into delivery and curbside pickup and mobile ordering. Especially during the pandemic, now is really the time to launch those initiatives. So Casey's, they're the 4th largest C-store chain in North America. They operate more than 2,000 stores in 16 states. So this is pretty big. Casey's actually debuted curbside pickup at several stores in July. And then in August, it expanded it to 80 additional stores. So now they're doing a massive launch. Customers can get all their items, and Casey's is known for its pizza. I haven't had the pizza, so Phil, I know that would probably be your next question of how good the pizza actually is. I don't know.
It's good. I've had it. I grew up
hear
on
it's very
it.
good. Yeah. So there's your answer. But big news out of Casey's, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more and more of this. Just over the past handful of weeks, big chains like Cumberland Farms, Quick Check, Wawa, so many have started debuting curbside pickup as an operation just to constantly bring in that food revenue during the pandemic.
Have you had the opportunity to look at any of their apps?
I haven't eaten anything from Casey's. I haven't been to any of their stores.
Not just Casey's. I'm curious because I have not downloaded, and I will after.
Oh, mobile apps, you're saying? I thought you
the
meant
mobile
appetizers.
Apps. Yeah, sorry, not appetizers, but the mobile apps themselves. How sophisticated are they? Are they as sophisticated as Albertsons.com, for example, or are they just very simple?
So it varies per chain. Some chains really focus on boosting their mobile capabilities, while others, have admitted that they don't put enough focus on it. Casey's is one of those brands that really puts a lot of effort into their mobile capabilities. Almost all of their orders, or so many of their orders, really go through their mobile app.
Got it. So Kat, I don't want to talk again about masks too much. But there's a new report that comes out that talks about some shopper frustrations, and masks are at the top of the list.
Yeah. So, grocery stores have been in the, I guess, good position that they stayed open during the pandemic, but they had to obviously implement new safety measures, one of which was obviously mask mandates, controlling how many people were allowed in the store at a time, and the the nightmare that was one-way aisles, which never worked to begin with. But even with all of those safety measures in place, a survey from Charleston Orwig surveyed over 1,000 consumers across the United States and found that 75% are still worried about catching COVID-19 while they're grocery shopping. So this is something obviously that retailers still need to be aware of, still need to be making efforts in order to kind of alleviate some of this concern. And the people who are most concerned are women and older millennials who have children. They're the ones who are likely to be frustrated with the grocery shopping experience. And then Mark Gale, the CEO of Charleston Orwig, just gave a few ideas of, how retailers can combat this frustration. And it all boils down to, the main thing that we know works, and that's communication with your customers. But he suggested that, you notify customers when there's a possible shortage or when out of stocks are, when they become available again. That's something that we experienced a lot in the beginning of the pandemic, but the survey found that 93% experienced out of stock situations when shopping within the last month. So obviously this is something that's still ongoing, and again, improving your online app, for delivery and pickup, making sure that that functions well, and just essentially just communicate with your customer and let them know what you're doing in order to, keep your store safe.
Well, it brings to mind what Grocery Outlet shared with us last week, that, a lot of their owners are doing Facebook Live videos to walk up and down the store and show people what's in stock and what's not in stock, just using technology to communicate very effectively. I think he's dead on. You need to have the conversation so people know what to expect, because we're still seeing, now the big buzz is about the shortage of frozen pizzas and how Whole Foods is starting to limit the amount of pizzas that you can buy and so on. And I think we're just going to go from commodity to commodity to commodity. It was toilet paper, and then it was soups and beans,
flour,
yeast, all that. And we're just going down the line, because as people, when they started with the pandemic, oh yeah, I have nothing to do, so I'm going to bake my own bread. I'm going to buy a baking machine, baker's yeast, flour, all that other stuff. Now parents especially, and the parents that we have right here on the team, you're not sitting at home just, wanting to waste time making food. You want to take a frozen pizza, you want to put it in the oven because the whole family likes frozen pizza, and that's the end of the story. I think even though one of the other things that the Wall Street Journal top 10 trends is for the next decade is people are going to be cooking and eating more at home. I don't know if they're going to be cooking. I think they're going to be microwaving, more at home and probably sitting around the dining room table. But I think that was just like a blip in people wanting to, learn how to cook and do all this stuff, and got real bored with it real quick. Jen, give us some good news.
So Rouse's Markets has joined Produce for Kids as of yesterday on launching a campaign with 10 produce companies in its stores to educate shoppers about the benefits of a healthful, produce-rich diet. And as part of that, it's going to support Feeding America food banks. So the 10 produce suppliers that are involved in this initiative are going to donate 100,000 meals to Feeding America food banks in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama.
That's great. For retailers and Feeding America and people really going above and beyond, it's terrific. The one notice, one concern that I have is there was a study done, I think it was at Harvard, a couple of years ago, we reported on it, that found that in order to change behavior when it came to produce items, they had to have, both for kids and adults, they had to have at least 9 servings of it, not all at the same time, obviously, but over 9 days or whatever else, to get them to like this kind of produce. And they did this in conjunction with a hospital, and the hospital paid for the produce so that, somebody could get produce 9 times. Because if you eat it once and you don't like it, and especially, if you're food insecure, you're not going to go back, and waste money on something you don't like. So I hope that, this program takes that into consideration, and not just, have a good campaign, but have people taste repeatedly, because we know sampling is just so important. But that's great news, and especially the 100,000 meals to Feeding America. So thanks all for joining us today. As always, we'll be here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30 a.m. Pacific and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All of our archives are on Restaurant Business, CSP, Winsight Grocery Business, and Supermarket Guru. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Wear a mask.